This is WAW. What a week.
What a week. PoliTricks.
Eta, welcome to the post-election edition of #PoliTricks with Botsang Modimowame Moiloa. Wow, what a week. Wow, what an election. Wow, what an outcome.
Yes, Brother Tato, good morning to you, Mr. Shikwani, morning to the followers, the viewers, and I wish I could say fellow South Africans.
And to
what an outcome.
And to the electorate.
Yeah, to the electorate.
Including
yes.
those that abstained.
And those that could not vote because of a new political party in South Africa, the IEC.
Oh, yes.
I regard the IEC as a new political party.
Tell us why you say that.
The IEC conducted themselves in this, and this has been our fear fresh in these elections. And you recall when we hosted Ntate Ritselane.
Yes, sir.
He also had concerns of the rushing to the election before some laws are passed, which were pending electoral laws, but also the way the IEC conducted themselves on the last few weeks of the elections. There's always been complaints of no voter education, this and that, but them interfering with or getting involved in judicial processes, courts, and other things that are not within their call or mandate. It took a lot of time that became evident to me.
Okay.
It became evident during the elections when they had glitches and hiccups that they should have used their resources, which includes time and personnel, to train even their staff. That became very clear to some of us at election, boxes, that some of the staff were not trained properly, or they didn't know what they were doing. They were also, when you train a person generally, you even prepare them for unforeseen circumstances in case a glitch happened. The people at IEC poll stations, they were not prepared in case a scanner doesn't work. What do you accept? You will go to the manual, but how? In case the scanner is on, but it's not communicating information. So they were not trained. The IEC should have used their resources and time to train their staff.
Because if there'd been adequate scenario planning,
yes,
you'd know that, okay, if A doesn't work, B is automatically what kicks in.
Exactly.
If B is problematic, what do we do?
Exactly. Another thing is they also had anticipated a very bigger voter turnout. Although it became almost 6% smaller than the last elections, but they anticipated more because of what was happening in the country, the vibe, the more political parties, the youth being active at the moment. And, you had almost like 1994, 27 million approximately potential voters. And you end up in less than half of that. For me, it's a failure. If you have set targets and you fail to achieve your targets, like we'll go to political parties and talk about it, you have failed. Because you have set the targets yourselves. You had plenty of time and resources and circumstances in front of you. Part of the voter turnout being low, or the people who have voted being low, part of it, I can tell you, despite that it was cold and people in South Africa are normally lazy to go and vote, part of it was caused by people who were turned back or who got upset for being on the queues or for not being on. I've listened to the radio the whole week for people who were not on the voters list, or they didn't know that they can't vote where they voted previously. Because previously I could vote in 3 areas in my area, in Centurion. But now I could vote only on 1 point. So there's a lot of voter education that lacked. But also, fresh, I have a problem with people in executive and senior management positions in government entities who likes to defend failure. Okay. People who likes to sit and want to defend where they failed, instead of saying, we have failed here, we have learned here, our risk or mitigating factors did not work, this is what we'll do in future.
Take responsibility.
Take responsibility.
So we can sooner come up with a better plan.
Exactly. And before we go to the parties themselves, another element becomes, and for me this is of serious concern, and almost 15 political parties goes and lodge objections for the results to be announced. The IEC on record within the law parameters is allowed 7 days from the date of the moment the elections closes. They have 7 days to can work on glitches, work on objections, work on anything else before they can pronounce the election. Now you close at midnight on Friday with all those problems. I'm not talking about rigging of votes. I'm talking about or the claims and allegation of rigging of votes. I'm talking about the fact that there are people who were queued for 4 hours. It took me 4 hours and 13 minutes to vote. And it's just that I was determined to stay there, But there are people who left.
The people who left because the polling station was not open 2 hours after it was meant to be open.
Exactly. Now, a normal manager of the polling station would have said, we open 2 hours late. We will inform the public that we'll close 2 hours later, because it was not the doing of the people. To stand up and just say, no, if everybody was already within the parameters of a voting station, will allow you in. That's very minimal. There were people who were not on the list. There were people, I've heard somebody on the radio say he voted twice and he was allowed. You understand? So, and why did the IEC rush? What is the rush for them to announce this thing when there are objections? Deal with the objections within the law, not what political parties demand. But what the law prescribes.
But handle each case.
Handle each case so that there should not be court cases after and disgruntled people. Now the IEC is sitting with the disgruntled MK, disgruntled UDM, and everybody else who complained. And I think the IEC has for me, they have failed. The elections in South Africa, we focused on the international community and people saying they are fearing for violence. And I ask a question. When has the South African elections ever been violent? Never.
Exactly.
Not even the most feared ones of 1994. Now, we focused our stress on there will be violence, there will be this, because MK has been threatening and doing that. And we put the resources there. The head of state went to an extent of even deploying the 300 soldiers to aid the police. And in a non-violent election process, that if there's one thing that we do nice, we vote peacefully as a nation. And our resources would have been used elsewhere. And we didn't go through that. But yeah, for me, that's the IEC. I think they should have handled this situation better. And if I had my way, I would actually say after this election, the whole bunch of IEC leadership, they must step out.
Where do you think this borderline arrogant approach comes from?
Fresh, I must be very frank with that. And I wrote something last week, over the weekend, before they announced on Saturday last week. I said, you can see the arrogance of and I've always said one of the downfall of the African National Congress is the arrogance of its leadership, not respecting the electorate and the people on the ground. Most of the people in Chapter 9 institutions of the state, most of them, they are deployees of the ANC. So you can see the conduct and the behavior of the leadership of,
are you saying there's a pattern?
The IEC, that they are conducting themselves well in line with the ANC conduct. And I think that's where the problem is. There's a pattern, as you say, of the behavior of people that the ruling party or the then ruling party was deploying people into government institutions. You can see that. I mean, I've been in government for over 27 years, and I've seen how people come in as DGs, as CEOs, you understand, and DDGs, whatever, and you can see that when people talk to you, in a professional environment, they talk as if they are in Luthuli House. I don't say Luthuli House is not professional, but I don't know what happens there because I've never been in Luthuli House.
So you're saying they treated you like a comrade versus someone who is a professional at what they do?
That's exactly their problem. That's one of the things they lack. This thing of the leadership have spoken. Then you don't question leadership. It has filtered well within government. That's why I've lamented that I had found myself in many problems with the leadership of government, ministers and CEOs and DGs, because I would question them, which was unheard of from ANC people, that you stand up and you question the minister. Simple things. I will refuse that when a minister walks in, I stand up. I said, where is that written? It's not disrespect. Why should the minister not sit down and come to my level? You understand? But it's things that when there's a policy position that you don't agree with, it's not to say you are defying your leadership or your elders or whoever. It's not to say that, because your leader can even be somebody who is younger than you by age. You are questioning not the person but the policy, and you are being put in that position so that your mind can also be used by the state You understand? And that's why I liked, some of the leaders. And you can see most is independent minds. I like when Terry Tsilane had said he was one of the people in the IEC who had said, let us move to electronic form of voting. And some people with old minds, they resisted. So you could see that problem. But I think there's an element of arrogance and entitlement that you can't question us. And that is gradually coming to an end because more and more people, not even youngsters, in the public sector are starting to question the leadership of the public sector.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the result. We've spoken about everything but the result.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that. We have enough time. The result. I wish we were a wealthy production team and studio, whereby when in future we record, we can play some of the clips in between.
We can do that.
Of what we had said.
Yes.
And I was boasting to people, and Ramkhulwaka stood up and said, Botsang, stop playing your horn. We are now worried. Stop blowing your horn. Yes, you told us the ANC will be, remember the first time I said, no, 47%. But after the polls of Ipsos and all this organization came out, I remember that conversation we had. They were putting them at 39%.
Sure.
And I said, no, I thought 39, that's too low, guys. I will be putting the ANC at between 40 and 43%. And that's exactly where the ANC went. I said I'll put the MK between 14 and 18%. I did say the EFF has reached the ceiling. And I've said it several times on this platform.
Yeah.
I said the EFF has reached its ceiling because the noise that the EFF came with and their policies, people don't vote for policies. It has reached the target that was intended from the formation in 2013. That's the first element.
So are you saying it can't convince any people further?
If you have to change,
who they have?
They can, but you have to change. The rhetoric of Julius Malema has become a common thing. He can't attract anybody new with his conduct and his statement. I don't say they are wrong. I'm saying it has reached its sell-by date. That's one. Two, I'll tell you why the EFF dropped, and I'll go back to the ANC. Why the EFF dropped. Many people allude it to the open the borders thing.
Sure.
If you read the EFF policy very well on borders and foreign nationals and whatnot, to be fair and honest, it's not open the borders. They may make noise about it, but if you have listened to we sending clothes and others and you read their policy, it's not like our borders should open. They failed to communicate it properly.
Sure.
When Patriotic Alliance was clear that we don't want foreigners in the country, especially illegal ones, the EFF was making slogans of open door Africa for all Africans without elaborating. What dropped the EFF votes? It's one that reached the ceiling policy-wise, but I can tell you, it is the love life they had, the stint they had, the one weekend stand they had with the Democratic Alliance in local metros.
Okay.
People were very upset with that. Their own members were very upset to say, no, we can't be convinced that the DA is anti-black, it's anti-socialism, it's anti-Pan-Africanism, and we belong to an organization that claims to be a socialist, Pan-Africanist. They want to nationalize mines. If they get into power in metros, they went to bed with the DA. EFF was punished for that. So they had nothing more to offer. Then we go to the Patriotic Alliance, and I can tell you what held the Patriotic Alliance. They didn't come with noise and parties and money. One, they didn't have money. There were two donors. The leader, Gaten McKenzie, 800,000, and somebody contributed about 300,000. They had 1.2 million. But their manifesto focused on two things.
Sure. Illegal
foreigners, one. Two, they neglected the marginalized colored community of South Africa, who consists of approximately 82% of the population in the Western Cape. And that propelled the Patriotic Alliance up. It had put them to where they wanted to be. I remember when we had the youth in the studio, one of them was the lady was the Patriotic Alliance councillor in Eldorado Park in the city of Joburg.
Yes, sir.
On the sites, she had said to me, their target is to have 9 parliament seats. And I said, no, guys, you are aiming too high, maybe 4 or 5. Their target was 10, and they've got 9.
Sure.
For me, that's a success from zero.
Absolutely.
And I thought the PAC will not make it back. They made it 1%. But this the last tune. The Democratic Alliance lost, dismally lost because of the breakaways, the Bossas, the Rise Mzansi, the Action SA, which I think Action SA did worse than I thought. I thought they would do much better. But the IFP, if you look at the elections, the Inkatha Freedom Party has been on the rise since the 2014 elections. Sure. They went down.
Steadily rising, yes.
Steadily rising.
Yep.
And this is where now educational people and people with statistics. Have you noticed that the IFP, and I'll tell you why I'm mentioning this, the IFP went down when Jacob Zuma took up the ANC. When Jacob Zuma ascended to the ANC, the IFP went down. Understand? They came back a little bit in the last term of Jacob Zuma. But after that, from 2019 elections, they went up steadily. They went up even more now. Understand? They remain, now they are the second party in KZN, from being the third at the moment. So the FP has done very well. But also, I listened to Ntate Veli Nkosi Hlabisa of the IFP explaining how they managed this. They had a 3-year plan. They sat down, they went to strategic planning. They had a 3-year plan to say, beyond Chief Mango Suchubutelezi, what can we do at F? And they focus in KZN and Gauteng, and it worked for them. It shows how proper planning aids. What did our leading African National Congress do wrong? They were infighting. The ANC was caught on infighting. They lost focus in the last trimester of the elections and focus on Jacob Zuma and MK. They undermined and underestimated Jacob Zuma. They thought he's a tribalist, he's an old man who can't do anything, but it's not Zuma alone who does the job. You see, you focus on one person, and that's wrong. Again, he had foot soldiers everywhere. And if you look at the loss of the ANC in percentages, it went actually, most of it to MK. If you take 40% plus the 14% of MK, all of it went there. In KZN, it was even beyond that. The MK party in KZN, they took from all three political parties, which are the major, including the EFF, the fourth one. But I think the writing was on the wall for the ANC Fresh for various aspects. I was on BBC News yesterday, and then I said, there's various factors. One of the factors that led the ANC, despite the infighting and all that, it is because the people were tired. You can't promise people something for 30 years and you don't deliver, and you still think people will still think the same way. But also historically, in this continent, former liberation movements have a tendency of dropping the ball after 25 years. We don't have a history of political parties, former liberation movement.
Are you saying they have failed to learn from history?
They failed to learn from history.
That has been clear for the last 60 years now.
They failed. They dismally failed. They thought South Africa is unique. But they also failed to read the mood of the game. That as much as you thought South Africa community or society is very different from other, traditionally and customarily based African nations. A little bit different, more like Nigerians, understand, diverse nation. They thought people in rural areas will continue to vote as they've been voting. It shows even where they won, like the Eastern Cape and Limpopo, because they banned mainly on rural areas. But the election results demonstrate that even the so-called rural-based people have voted differently. Some percentages dropped.
Yes.
And they failed to read the mood. But I also think there is no accountability from the ANC leadership.
But can you blame rural people? Because a lot of the non-delivery happened in the rural areas.
Yes.
So you go to rural Eastern Cape, rural
Limpopo, Northwest, for instance. I mean, the state of the roads alone, people don't have water. Kids have to swim through rivers, across rivers to get to schools. Eventually, people say enough, man. Yeah, and for basics, Fresh, what?
And these are basics.
These are basics.
And these are low-hanging fruit.
You score from them. Yes.
That you can fix these now.
Well,
the fact that it's another administration coming into to Parliament, there are still kids using pit latrines.
Yes.
There's still people using a bucket system.
And
Low-hanging fruit.
And it's things that they had promised. You see what made it difficult for the ANC? If you look at the 1994, 1999, 2004, 2009, and so forth, and continuously, all these things that we regard as low-hanging fruits and basics, they repeatedly find themselves in the manifesto of the ANC. But they failed to implement their own manifesto on basic things. What did they do? What did they focus on? And to go and think the people of Eastern Cape and Free State and Limpopo and all those things will be excited of the beautiful roads and the Gautrains of Gauteng, and you will win them because of that. It's not your benefit. But even where they did well, in Gauteng, the ANC lost dismally, to about 34%, where they thought black middle class, the so-called black middle class, the clever blacks, the educated blacks who are having the Gautrain and the roads, and also Nancy Spani is there. The government introduced the NHI. The government abandoned the Gauteng, e-tolls.
E-tolls, yes.
They thought doing those things, which are good things, some of them, it will change the mind of the people. No, it did not. It actually, the people showed them the middle finger in the Gauteng. And I think the ANC doesn't learn. But the bigger problem with that also is there is no management consequences in the ANC.
Sure.
If you are running a company, a business, and politics is a business, it's a business of politics, and you have deployed people there to deliver and they fail, you remove those people there to deliver. But unfortunately, politics work the opposite way. The voters, the branches, the members of the organizations, they don't realize that actually they have deployed the leaders into government and into position to lead them. That's what our people are lagging to say. If this leader is not delivering what we want, then we'll remove them. And this is where leadership must show itself now, with them talking on coalitions. But the third thing that destroyed the ANC, it's something that I've written, and I'm going to share it again in
the wild dog approach.
The wild dog approach.
Yeah, you wrote this, 2011?
2013, actually, when the formation of the EFF. One of the documents that I presented to the EFF as a political commissar in Tshwane was the wild dog approach. And I see people are talking about the Heine approach. To say how Heine... No, I don't think it's the Heine approach. Let me, for a moment, take our viewers to how it works in Serengeti, in the wild.
Sure.
And politics are in the wild. Hyenas, as everybody's excited, are when they hunt, they go and attack a beast or a prey. They eat as they're hunting. They can even chase away a lion because they come as a gang, as a group. Chase it away in order to... That's how it's to feed themselves. That's how ANC leaders are. They are hyenas. They focus on one thing and they eat, and they amass wealth and they amass power and they amass control. But what they failed to do and what people are failing to realize is what brought the ANC down. It's not the hyena approach, because the ANC were the hyenas, and the ANC is a very big animal.
Sure.
It's the wild dog approach, and Jacob Zuma knew it very well. Julius Malema knew it very well. The wild dogs, when they hunt in the wild, they don't, unlike hyenas, they don't, with their sharp teeth, they don't chow a running beast, like let's say a buffalo or a rhino, and eat for themselves. That's not what wild dogs do. Wild dogs, when they hunt, they cut, swallow, they chow this animal, they run back to the range to feed the old, to feed the sick, to feed the young ones. And as the dead can't hunt. Now, in politics, who are the wild dogs? Is the EFF, is the MK, is the Patriotic Alliance, and others. What they did is, in metros, they will chow the ANC a little bit here and there, go back to the range, give their people positions, improve people's life where they can. So they fed the people. That's why they kept them up. A lot of people in KwaZulu-Natal, a lot of people within the ANC and the country, they saw Jacob Zuma as a president who fed some black people. He has been praised as he has created more black millionaires than anybody else. So that's the wild dog approach. He was chewing from the ANC. While he was in the ANC, he's still in the ANC, the EFF was doing the same. The Patriotic Alliance saw the gap with the colored community, and they fed these people. They took care of the people with basics where they could, even if they were not in power. And that's where the wild goat, I'm going to share that document again to say, this is how you bring the beast down. This is how wild dogs do. They don't eat selfishly for themselves. Now, where does it leave the beast? It leaves the beast only big belly. They've taken all the steak and everything. It leaves the big belly, which is rotten. Because in the belly, it's corruption, it's maladministration, it's infighting. That's why you find politicians in the ANC with their bellies this big. This is a metaphor. Their bellies being this big. That's the belly of a beast that these parties have left. They've taken the best out of the ANC. The best brains, best administrators, disciplined cadres. They've left the ANC and they just left the belly full of the whole concoction of this thing. What's going to happen to a belly with all the yeast, all the acid, and it's going to explode. And that's why the ANC is now. If they are going to sit and focus on this big belly, we don't want to lose it, they will explode. Because they should tear that belly out and start cleaning it, remove. In our modern day life, we find people having bowel cleansing. That's what the ANC should do.
But how do they start doing that when you still have generally veterans who feel entitled to positions, to opportunities, I also want to eat a bit?
Yeah, but that's part of the corruption and maladministration. They should the ANC leaders, the Panyazas, the Masinas, the Papanos, and those that I know who I am, the Mamuluku Kubais that I know, they must start telling the elders, we have done your part, we appreciate, step aside. Sit there. Let us do it in our way, in our modern day. One of the people who have defied the ANC, and not badly, but he wanted to do it, Masina, the former, I really follow him and appreciate him, the former Ekurhuleni mayor. The guy refused to go into coalitions that are unprincipled. And he took his people with, and he lost positions. He became the unfavored, prodigal son. But he was principled to say, but this is not our route. We will lose people if we don't follow our route. So this thing of when the ANC is desperate, their leaders come. Look at what happened to us, the campaign. It was 5-1. It was 5 former leaders of the Jacob Zuma era who were brought in to fight Jacob Zuma. Who knows them better? And why do you do that? Actually, he Varam clapped them. That's what I said. Zuma alone beat Mbeki, Mutante, Chokio, who was the other one, the former premier of Mpumalanga, the lawyer. They were all combined in Mabuza. The 2 former premiers, the one before Ramaphosa. All of them, plus Ramaphosa, they were brought in to say, hey, that's a man with a big head who's giving us a problem, named Jacob Zuma. Come and deal with your, old men like you. He outclassed all of them. He even went to an extent of outclassing them in KZN, in Gauteng and provinces. And is the focus of saying, if you are infighting, you lose the focus. Right now, with people talking coalitions, the ANC, I think, is losing the focus of what is the ANC existing for. And I think that's their challenge of we need all people to guide and advise us. But we should be able to be realistic and stick to the principle.
Now, looking at the results, you have someone like Ace Magashule, who sounds like he overestimated his own influence. Hence, he feels the way he does about the results. How do you feel about his utterances?
I think...
Because often we think we're more popular than we know we are.
Yeah. But again, Ace Magashule has been in the ANC forever. He's one of the oldest ANC leaders. I've said before, he was at some stage the longest serving premier, chairperson of the Free State, and the Free State rejected him. He overestimated that. And look, his utterances started before the elections. And they continued now. And I don't want to delve into the allegations of rigging and maladministration. You leave that to the institutional process to take care of that. But it is also underestimating your power. And Free State has told Ace Magashule that no, there may be a few who like you, but we are rejecting you. Even if the ANC didn't do well in the Free State, they went in there with a whisk, but I think Ace Magashule, and I've said it before, election, Ace Magashule should have thrown his weight behind the MK because he's getting a lot. Rather, he should have done that. They would have done well in the Free State. They would have done well. Now, with nothing at hand, he can't even support the MK.
Another discussion that me and you had, I also asked this question to Musi Maimane when I had a sit down with him, is the fact that surely all of these brilliant minds who would rather start their own movement, start their own parties, stand alone, versus saying, there's 10 of us. We are all brilliant minds.
Yeah.
Why are we not choosing one of us to lead us and we get behind that person and see what we can do, to move South Africa forward?
Yeah.
But instead it feels like there's 100 egos that all think they can be president versus one of you could represent all of you. And rather you form one movement.
Yeah, it's power, being power hungry. If you have tasted power, all the people you have mentioned, Musi Maimane, Action SA leader.
But like someone like Songezo for me felt like someone who felt like
he can do better than others.
Not even I can do better. Songezo for me felt like he was saying, I feel like I don't have a choice because the people I trusted are not doing it. So I want to jump in also.
Yeah, but he was a politician, he was an activist, a businessman, he was in politics. Look, he had the money.
Yes.
As long as I had the money.
Sure.
Somebody comes and pumps money in and they think, we have been saying, and people have been saying, money runs politics. Political parties which had money, actually more money and donations from the Oppenheimer family, they lost this money.
Exactly.
And they failed to realize that it is money, yes, it is policies, yes, but it is the voter that makes the determination.
Yeah.
All these other brilliant, educated leaders that we are referring to, who were in my books part of the moonshot pad or breakaways from mainly the Democratic Alliance, they are not in touch with reality. You understand? You are not in touch with Alexander, with squatter camps.
That's exactly my point, Botsang, that again, it's almost like they overestimate their own influence.
Yes, that's what they did.
That because people on Talk Radio 702 love you, that on Twitter, that therefore at grassroots levels you're going to do well. Your average person at grassroots level is going to vote for one of 5 parties.
Yes,
full stop.
Yeah, but look at it. One, it depends if these people were brought up in rural areas and townships, because that could have informed them on the thinking of the majority of the people.
Yeah.
And the second part is, people live so much in the media industry, social media, radio, and television, which is controlled. And they believe that when the polls in the media and on Twitter, that's why I always say to people, what I like about our show is that it's not a populist show, but the content that comes out of it, I've said and I've calculated less than 5% were being questioned or people disagree. Because it's not a populist show. So populism does not, but they are also not even popular. They may be popular to me and you,
or in their circles.
But in reality, they are not in touch with what is happening in the townships. That's why people like Julius Malema, as much as he lives in Sandton, he will go and have his rallies in Seshego, in Tembisa, and go and vote in those areas. But again, Fresh, to start speaking English, they speak English. You see, politics in Africa had misled leaders this time to think that when you are eloquent, when you speak English very well, then you are automatically a good leader, and you can't relate. Look at how Jacob Zuma amasses. He speaks more Zulu, and he doesn't even care about Sesotho, Setswana speaking people that follow him. But they go because he is in touch with reality, and that was making him popular.
Absolutely.
That kind of populism, you understand, becomes your votes, becomes your followers, becomes people who believes in you.
Because they can relate to you.
Because they can relate to you.
Yes,
but again, I look at my favorite politician, again, the other one, Panyaza in Gauteng. Very disappointed. ANC lost under Panyaza in Gauteng. The ANC lost under Ramaphosa. They went down the last election, they lost at this time.
Do you think he'll come back as premier?
Sorry?
Do you think Panyaza will come back as premier?
No. I doubt as premier. I think Panyaza should be elevated to the national government. He has become a typical politician, not an operational guy.
Okay, do you think Gauteng will have an ANC premier?
Look, it depends on who they will go to coalition with.
Yeah.
It depends. They may go on a battering process. They look, their numbers and EF and DA numbers they can have a government in Gauteng.
Sure.
But I think the premier of Gauteng and the premier of KZN, they are going to be, and the premier of Mpumalanga, they are going to be determined from national, not provincial.
Yes.
I don't think these political parties are going to
So
let
there'll
provinces to engage.
be a bigger negotiation.
There are going to be a bigger negotiations there that will be filtered into the provinces. I can tell you what is a bird in my ear had said something about me. There are so many people in the ANC who have been hiding and they voted MK, and some are in local government.
Sure.
And I think this is what's going to happen. I think the ANC is under so much pressure from international community, the markets and what they will go to bed with DA and IFP.
In fact, is it Major General Spio Nyanda?
Yes.
Who wrote a letter to, is he an ambassador to Mozambique right now?
I don't know where Spio Nyanda is. Yeah, the last time I checked, he was the High Commissioner in Mozambique.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So, I mean, he wrote a letter saying that the ANC better not dare go into coalition with the MK because JZ is going to come back and finish the party off.
And finish them. I saw that. He actually made on that letter, General Nyanda or Ambassador Nyanda made reference to what President Kgalema Motlanthe had said before. Because President Motlanthe had also written something along those lines. So you can see the old guard in the ANC. They are actually against the ANC talking to MK.
Sure.
They don't want anything to have to do with JZ and the MK. They were told by the Democratic Alliance that if you want to talk to us, you must exclude Julius with the EFF.
Sure.
So politically, actually, the DA and ANC can marginalize the EFF and the Umkhonto weSizwe.
In fact, my next question was going to be that. Which coalition would make the most sense for South Africa as a country?
And you want Botsang's opinion?
Yes.
First, South Africa as a country.
Because surely ANC, EFF, MK is a reunion of the ANC.
Oh, the ANC, yes.
And
that will be the reunion.
Which would basically mean that maybe not much is going to change.
Look, I think there may be a change. Let me answer your last question before I go to the main
Yes,
one.
sir.
I think there may be a change because now MK and EFF will be coming back with refined policies and positions.
Okay.
Understand? They departed from, remember the ANC as a liberation movement was a nationalist leftist movement that had alliance with the communists.
Sure.
And they were talking of socialism and things like that. When ANC came into power, they became a center, even a little bit leaned to the right. They are more center-right. I would say they're a center organization. The ANC talks of land reform. The EFF talks about land expropriation.
Sure.
The Umkhonto weSizwe now is talking about repossession of the land. So Umkhonto weSizwe and EFF policies are talking to each other. Now, if they come back to the ANC, what they will do, they will dilute the transformed policies of the ANC to be the original ones which were intended to improve the life of the African people.
Sure.
That's what it will do if it happens. I don't think Julius and Jacob will go back to the ANC and say, now we are okay, we are back home, let's continue business as usual. I think they will come back and say, this is what we want back, which the ANC may reject or will reject. And now going back to your first question, which form of coalition will be the best? Look, Fresh, I've listened to both sides of the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now we're giving an opinion based on what's in the best interest of the country.
Of the country.
Yes. This is like co-parenting now.
Yeah. Okay.
What's in the best interest of the child?
What do I want for South Africa?
Yes,
I want an economic upliftment of South Africa. I want a South Africa where black people or African people will have ownership of the productive land like their white counterparts, and it must be based on population demographics.
Sure.
We must move away from a situation where the minority, which is white people, are owning 80% of the land, if not more. They are controlling the economy. So if we talk of the best interest of South Africa, it will mean that the children in Matuba, the children in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape, the children in Dinokana and Liubuti must stop having pit latrine toilets.
Sure.
For me, that is the best interest because you are saving the people.
Sure.
Understand? And in that instance, I think it will be the ANC being the majority party at 40% nationally, to go and align itself with political parties that are pushing for the upliftment of people.
Okay.
Understand? For me, that will be the best.
Which are those parties?
Which I look at Umkhonto and the EFF themselves as part of that, but then you look at the IFP itself. Then you look at the Patriotic Alliance. The Patriotic Alliance has convinced me that they've got the best interest.
They mean business.
They mean business.
They
Their
mean
business
business.
was like, guys, we have left colored people out,
Sure.
and they are part of South Africa. So why wouldn't I want to go to bed with Patriotic Alliance when actually they are talking something that we are all aware of? We are all know that actually colored people in South Africa has been reduced to people who drink, who are gangsters. They don't occupy strategic positions. Even when development and BEE laws were applied, colored people were marginalized.
Sure.
You understand? But let's flip the coin and talk of people who are saying, or a scenario where people are saying the ANC and DA, coming together. Look, they've got a percentage, 20 and 40. Actually, it will make about 61, 62% if
Sure.
you add their margins. And that's a big number.
Do you think the ANC and the DA can find one another?
Look, if I talk and base it not on my best interest or the interest of the country, based on their policies.
Sure.
On their policies, they can. They talk the same language. They talk reforms, they talk economic, they talk international, pleasing the market and things like that. That's what they want to please. They want to please the market. They don't want to upset investors.
Sure.
They don't want to upset the minority. The ANC doesn't want to be seen as pushing the minority white people out. So they are talking the language of the DA. That's why all along I've been saying the ANC are defenders of white people, or white people are more comfortable with the ANC in power than any other organization because they've protected their interests and the markets and their investments and the economy very well.
For 30 years now.
Yeah, they've protected them very well. So is that the best interest of the country? I've heard people saying it's stability. The question is stability for who?
Sure.
Me and you, we are not stable because we are unsafe. The country is one of the most unsafe places on earth. South Africa is the most unequal society on earth. So what stability are people talking about?
Sure.
We have one of the highest unemployment
So are you
rates.
saying something has to change or break?
We need to break, not even just change. We
Sure.
need to break. You know, I've been saying we have to uproot the evil of the years of colonialism, apartheid, and segregation. We didn't uproot it. We didn't go and take that mango tree out of the soil and uproot it because it's damaging the walls. We have cut it and the roots continue to grow.
Sure.
That's why white capital in South Africa, they are comfortable and they enshrine themselves in the economy of the country very well.
Sure.
And a part of uprooting South Africa, it will also be changing the constitution of the country. You need 2/3 majority to can amend the constitution. And let me tell you, with the leftist party and the ANC, all the leftists, we take the PAC with their one seat, the Patriotic Alliance, MK, EFF, and maybe IFP, maybe, but they are not leftists. They will make 2/3 majority. They will be in a position to can amend the constitution for the best interest of the people, not for the best interest of the market. You know, Fresh, I've heard fly-by-night economists and people who read market economy saying, yeah, but these people who don't want the DA-ANC thing, it will be them crying when prices go up and all. The majority of the people, the prices don't go up for them because they can't afford to buy.
Anyway.
You understand? Anyway. And the GA and the ANC have been running this country, not as a coalition, but as the two leading parties.
Sure.
Forever. They've been running this country. They've been running the provinces. They even toppled in Qatar from KZN. You understand? What did they do? Prices have been going up. People have been starving. People have been dying. Education standards have been dropping. Now, we need a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
We need a paradigm shift. We cannot want the status quo to remain to say, no, for progress and stability in the country. The country is unstable. When we have high unemployment, poor levels of education, highest rates of crime, and insecurity. The other day you mentioned a scenario whereby a normal person spends more money in a normal country, less money in a normal country for security than we spend.
Yeah.
The country is already unstable. What instability?
Sure.
And when we say we will upset the market, and people, what they say, people will lose jobs. People are losing jobs without the market being...
People are jobless already.
Already. Now, does people want to come and tell me that the market are stabilizing? They're not. For who? Who is the benefactor? One of the biggest problems we've been talking about politically and economists, they've been saying there's an exodus of capital in South Africa. These foreign direct investors, they will come and open Ford and factories and mines. But the benefits and the profits are not coming back to be plowed back into our communities. That's why there's unemployment, there's poverty, interest rates are going, because money goes out. So for me, that is an economic instability in the country. There is no stability. So when people say, for the sake of stability and protecting stability and the economy of the country, whose economy? Where is that economy? Who does it benefit? I see more unemployed youth. You understand? I see more poverty around. You walk around the streets of Joburg, don't talk rural areas. Tshwane, Joburg, Ekurhuleni, Mohali City. You see filth. You see poverty. You see sewage going around. You see youth roaming the street. You see drugs. You see robbers every day. For me, that is instability.
Sure.
There is no instability worse than that, because you want to stabilize the
can't get
majority.
worse.
It can't get worse. It can't get worse than this. If investors want to go, we own the country. It's our land.
And if Botsang leaves with his money, there's always someone else ready to use that same opportunity.
Exactly my point, Fresh.
You have war zones with investors.
Exactly.
Entire war zones.
Exactly.
With people saying, oh, there's an opportunity to build solar. Let me come in.
That's how the global economy works.
Yes.
We have investors here in South Africa, billions. They invested billions 2 years back into when Eskom had problems. Ntata Ramaphosa galvanized and had people in Sandton.
Sure.
They invested billions to help with what happened after those billions. Eskom went worse, actually.
Sure.
There was more load shedding than ever before. So when we say instability, and who said when black people, again, this is another thing, perception that we must correct. That nonsense.
Sure.
You know, the medicine for a failing black man is a white person. Black people are very successful, where we have touched. I've worked in government, and I can tell you, I've worked in many government projects with people from various political parties, majority of them blacks. I don't remember failing in one project of government because I knew what I was there for. But when people say, when these black people gang, they create it as if when black political formations group up and team up together for a common purpose, we are ganging against white. What nonsense is that? So when the DA and the Freedom Front Plus and others meet, what is it? What do you call that?
It's similar to the DA talking about a coalition of, what do they call it? A coalition of doom or something.
Yes, the doomsday.
A doomsday coalition, as if we can't be trusted with anything.
Exactly.
It's like, if we are not here as the prefects, we can't trust them.
Yes, the DA, which is a white party, and I've said on this platform before, South Africans vote along the color lines, and it's very clear our political formations are influenced by our political background or our historical background. Now, the bosses, the DA, you call them prefects, they say, no, without us, they will turn South Africa into Zimbabwe. If that's their fear, let them leave us, let's kill each other, let's destroy ourselves. I would rather mismanage and misgovern myself than to be mismanaged and be misgoverned by a foreign settler. The DA in the Western Cape, people talk of it as done well. Tell me what is well in Khayelitsha, in Langa, in Gugulethu. Tell me what is well there. They have done well where it benefits the white people. Look at the colored community of the Western Cape. One of the most violent places on earth is in the DA government municipality, the Cape Flats. One of the most violent, not one, the most violent place, and it's a colored community, in Gauteng, where in Tshwane, where the DA is governing. Guess what is it? Oliver and Holt Bosch. It's a black community, absolute black community, 100% black community lives in Oliver and Holt Bosch under the DA, and is the most violent, the most impoverished and the most violent township of South Africa is Oliver Holt was under the DA. So where is this myth that where white people or the white DA governs, things are better? Where? Better for who? For who? And if people are sitting there and saying the ANC must not make a mistake of bringing Zuma back, Zuma is old, guys. Actually, when the ANC go into with MK and EFF, since they have problem with Julius and Zuma, they must say, Julius and Zuma, step aside. Let's talk with these parties and their manifestos. They must not think of individuals.
Sure.
You don't go into a negotiated political settlement or collaboration or coalition and you have personality problems.
But
it won't help.
But isn't that precisely what the horse trading is, though? That I will give you president if you give me deputy president. Therefore, it will be President Ramaphosa, assuming they want to work with him, and Deputy President Steenhuisen, for instance.
But Fresh, you know, I've painted a scenario, and I said, if that is the problem, you see, it's like also entrusting, as if it's President Ramaphosa or Deputy President Steenhuisen or Jacob Zuma comes back, things will be better. I'm saying no. We are not putting it on individuals.
Sure.
Let us put it on which policies we are going to agree with that will make the country and take the country back. If it goes to a push, let these old men who have misled this country for 30 years, including from the DA, let them all shift. And let's bring new brooms to implement joint policies.
So basically you're saying we need a coalition that is brave enough to understand that nothing changes if nothing changes.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
we are at a stage in this country where lots has to change.
You know, the ANC has been talking about renewal.
Sure.
This is the opportunity for them to get rid of the deadwood, clean your... It's an opportunity.
Sure.
Let there be casualties. You understand? Let the ANC be brave enough and don't say, hey, Ramaphosa, you failed the organization. It was under you. They must also say to Panyaza, you failed Gauteng. Sure. I like him.
Yeah.
But Gauteng went there despite all his efforts. You can see how entrusting power on an individual fails. Panyaza is a good leader. I think so.
Sure.
He had good intentions.
I think he's brilliant.
And, he implemented those intentions. But what went wrong? They still lost.
Sure.
You understand? It shows that even when you had somebody with good intentions, the same applies on the other side. When you have somebody who's bad, and you still keep that person there and you expect good results. So when a good person has failed, so it is about the organization, it's about the collective.
Sure.
This is where the ANC must say to its deployees and cadres, we have failed. And for the sake of the organization, to renew and to rebuild, we must get rid of deadwood. We must get rid of corrupt people. And certainly in the past week, we saw 3 of their top leaders in courts. You know, former speaker, former minister, and all that. And we are going to see more of that. But they have an opportunity now with the numbers they've lost. One of the key issues that ANC has said they want to do is to reclaim back the voters that they have lost. And it's easy to reclaim them back. Go to them, go to the MK, go to the EF, because they lost members to those, and say, come back home, let's talk. And that's the best coalition for this country, for the people in my view. I've heard something very funny. I've seen a tweet during the course of the week, and I heard they met, that when they had their meeting on Tuesday, Minister Mr. Butima Namela, who's a very young guy, and I like him as well. He rose in an ANC meeting, and he said, leadership, I hear you are talking whom we can sleep with, whom we can go to bed with, whom we can form coalition with, but you are making a mistake. You know, MK took our members, and we all agree, and we have our member there.
He's still there.
He's still there, he's our member. Let me call that person. And apparently they allowed him to call Jacob Zuma and say, hey, by the way, you're still the member of the ANC,
Yeah,
and you have our numbers.
There's
there.
an NEC meeting here.
Yeah, there's an NEC meeting. Exactly where JZ wanted them. You understand? You remember when I said in February, the mistake they are doing is postponing and dealing with him.
Had they dealt with him decisively,
Yeah.
they might not have half the problems they have.
He'd
right
have
now.
half the problems. Now he's a member, and he's a member of the NEC, being the former president. So he must sit in NEC meetings unless they enforce the suspension. Because remember, he's still in suspension.
Sure.
But that suspension, it has a time frame.
Sure.
It's valid until a certain period. And if my memory serves me well, it's expiring now in June. The suspension, and then they must charge him. You can't be suspended indefinitely. Look, these negotiations for coalitions, they need sober-minded people.
Yes, sir.
They need level-headed leaders who will have to take a decision whether is it to please the international community or the market, or to come with a coalition that will serve the people.
Yes, sir.
And I'm saying, in my view, the coalition of the left is intended to serve the people. I'm not talking about the leaders. They must deal with the leaders. I'm talking about that coalition, its policies, its intention. The coalition of the right with the DA, it will not serve the people. It will keep the status quo as it is, that the rich will be staying richer, the poor will be poorer. There will be loss of jobs. There is evidence today that it doesn't work.
Sure.
There is material evidence, there's records. ANC has been in power with the DA for all these years. So there is evidence that it didn't work. Why do we think that they were sleeping in 2 separate bedrooms? It didn't work. What makes us think if they sleep in 1 bedroom, it will work? I mean, the DA has said they don't want Paul Mashatile. The ANC has a principle of saying, but that's our deputy president. Who must
Absolutely.
And if we don't want Paul Mashatile, we must charge Paul Mashatile for allegations. What about all other allegations of everybody else? Will it help the organization? It will not.
Likewise, NHI. I know that NHI,
It's a thought.
it's on the table.
Yes.
And I don't think the ANC will be willing to disregard NHI in order for the DA to say, okay, I'll sleep with you.
Exactly, but also we can look at small parties like the Freedom Fund Plus. They'll be part of Parliament.
Sure.
They will see. They've actually written now. They want to bring Pala back on the table. Will the ANC and DA? Will the DA say to Freedom Fund Plus, no, don't bring Pala back. We are now in bed. We are married to the ANC.
Exactly.
That marriage of convenience, I don't think it's good for the country.
There's another unlikely alliance that could happen that would get numbers beyond 50%.
Which
That
one?
would be the DA, the EFF, and the MK.
Absolutely never.
It would never happen.
Never, not in this lifetime.
But in your wildest imagination, think about how that would then totally disrupt the status quo.
Yes.
Give us a white president again.
Or a deputy. Let's use that.
No, I don't think Steenhuisen would agree not to be president because, I mean, he brings the bigger numbers.
That if they start doing that, it will not work. But no, that coalition will never happen. No matter how much. You must remember, people like Julius and Jacob Zuma, they don't hate the ANC.
Sure.
They are just upset. They had a fight. You know, it's like siblings fighting and another one stopped coming home.
You upset me, so I'll show you.
Yes, so I'll show you. And they showed them.
Yeah.
They showed them.
Sure.
Understand? Now, it's much more easier, much more logical. If the ANC wants to rebuild itself, do you want to ask me if I want the EFF, MK, and ANC to be together? No. Because I've been saying the ANC, the Charterists are not good together. But if they go back there diluted with the little knowledge that some of us has planted into Julius's head about Sankara and into Zuma, and they've learned their mistakes. Look, have the ANC learned? I doubt it.
Sure.
The current crop, I doubt it.
Sure.
But the other thing that's very difficult for the country is that if you take the ANC and the DA out, even if the rest go together, they won't even make a government.
Absolutely.
So we have to find a coalition partner, and I want to dismiss the myth that coalitions don't work. Coalitions work if they're best administered. But we will have the coalition partners. They will go into government. If it's IFP, DA, and IFP, DA, and ANC, which I see the mainstream media is pushing, and the middle class, they are pushing for that. South Africans, get yourself up. The status quo is going to remain.
Sure.
And if you take the one that I call the upset, that will upset everything and bring fundamental changes for the benefit of the African people in this country. And somebody may say, why do you keep on saying the African people? You don't even say the South Africans, the white. No, I'm not here to come and protect the interest of white people. They can talk for themselves. I'm simply saying that is what will benefit the majority, if you want me to put it that way.
Sure.
It will be the left one.
Sure.
But then, or else we are stuck with a minority government. And I don't know why the ANC is not doing that. You know, the minority government can work. It happened in Canada.
Okay.
It happened there's another country, I think it's Canada and Turkey, where a minority government works. A minority government is the simpler way out. I don't know why is ANC afraid of that. I don't know where are their so-called thinking tanks. It's because they can establish a minority government. The only problem they will have is when it's time to pass laws in Parliament.
Ah, yes.
You understand? You understand? But what more laws do you want? You already have laws that you can implement. Anything new, if they reject it, it's okay. Do the best with
Can we
what
get
you
the
have.
train moving?
Yes.
Let's get the train
Yes,
moving.
get the train moving. Establish a minority government. Leave these people out.
Yeah.
But you will see. Do you think if the ANC tables a motion in Parliament that will benefit KwaZulu-Natal people to protect the Ngonyama Trust, do you think the MK and IFP won't support them? They will support them.
Sure.
Do you think if the ANC comes or MK tables a move to say, let's have free quality higher education, do you think ANC and EFF will reject it? They will not. You understand? The train will be moving. You have a minority government. All that you need is that these MPs, these lawmakers, should vote with you. You will bank on that. And what will the ANC need? They will need 11 or 12%.
Sure.
Of their votes. And then we have a minority government. There's nothing wrong with a minority government. What is this thing of wanting absolute power and absolute control? Because look what it has done. It has corrupted them. It has made them to fail because they thought they cannot be removed from that absolute power. But we have all said coalitions are coming. I don't think coalitions are bad. They can work if they are well administered. I think so.
So to quote one President Zuma, I guess Jesus has come back.
Well, I must actually meet Msholozi and ask him, what did you mean by Jesus? You probably said JZ. You want to say Jesus?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think Jesus has come back. The ANC will rule until Jesus comes back. But another thing with the ANC, if they are not careful, and I've heard from some sources, and I've heard Advocate Senior Counsel Dalim Pofu says that's what the EFF and MK are wishing for.
Sure.
That the ANC make a mistake of going to bed with the DA. That will be the end of the ANC. I've heard people like Tony Ngeni this past week, Melindi Sisulu, saying under no circumstances will go to bed with the DA. But they are forgetting. You see the problem with ANC leaders as well. They are forgetting that during their term, Tony Ngeni, Messi Sulu, Jacob Zuma, and many others who are talking my language today, it was them that went to bed with the National Party.
With the Nats, yes.
Yes. The NC went to bed with the guy they call Kortbroek, Martinez van
Skalkwyk.
Yes.
The Government of National Unity.
Yeah, no.
Oh, you mean when they swallowed
they swallowed New National
the
Party,
NNP?
After the Government of National, after the Mandela era,
yes.
when they swallowed the NNP, I will never forget, I was a youngster working for the Department of Foreign Affairs, Diriko today, and I'll never forget that poster, Zapiro's, what do you call them? Cartoon.
The cartoon, yes.
Of Pek Buota, who was my minister, and de Klerk campaigning in Soweto for the ANC and drinking Ombo tea and wearing Siana Marena and the Soto hat. And the ANC leaders, that time, the Tokyo Sohwales,
Yes.
addressing Pek Buota as Comrade Pek. That's fake revolution. Comrade Pek. Now, today, the same people who were in those positions, like Tokyo Sohwale, like the so-called stalwarts and elders of that, they are the ones who are pushing that. You know why? In their mind, it worked.
Sure.
It stabilized the country. They went into a romance and bromance with the new National Party. Now they want to come and tell South Africans at this modern day age that we have done it with the National Party, which was racist. Now we can do it with the Democratic Alliance, which is diluted, because the GA sees itself as diluted, because it moves from being the Democratic Party. When some of the Nats people went into the ANC, those who were not happy with the ANC as communists, they went to the Democratic Alliance.
To the DP.
To the DP.
Yes.
That became the Democratic Alliance. So you have residuals of the new National Party in both the ANC and the DA, and you expect those people to think and operate differently today. No, they don't.
Sure.
I don't think it will be a wise move for them.
Botsang, we've been going for over an hour already. But let's talk about the MK threatening to boycott Parliament if there isn't do they want a recount or a revote?
Okay, Fresh, let me scratch my head. They wanted first the IEC to address the what they have filed formally,
Sure.
Which is the objections.
Regarding JZ.
No, not regarding JZ. Regarding what they said, there was
The
irregularities
yes.
to be addressed, okay? Which I think because they went formally, it is fine. They must focus on that. And they said they want a recount, especially on voting stations or from voting stations where, remember, it's not only MK that protested.
Sure.
They wanted a recount, and the what do you call it? The IEC went to pronounce elections without addressing that, but they still have until a few more days. Now, the second part of it is that if the IEC exercise their authority and put their foot down and say, now, bugger off, we are not going to do, or we are happy.
Sure.
99% it's okay, the others are small glitches. And we are going ahead with this. One of the things that the MK said they will do, one, they said they had 4 plans. One, they will go to the Constitutional Court. Two, they may boycott the zoning of members of parliament, and I'll come back to that. The third one, they said they will actually go and lobby other parties to declare these elections unlawful, unfair, and all that, and therefore there must be revoting. That's a different ballgame. It's a far-fetched statement. I want to focus on this thing of boycotting parliament. It has been on the debate a lot.
Yeah, because many are saying, but if they boycott, then would you have the numbers to select a president?
Yes.
And my understanding is you just need 201 people.
No,
you don't.
That's not how it works.
Okay.
And I've listened to Pierre DeForce, a constitutional law expert.
Yes.
I even heard Dalimpovu pronouncing on this.
Sure.
I've listened to many scholars and many people. Okay. To form, first of all, remember me and you, we spoke about it 2 weeks back.
Sure.
At the moment, where South Africa is sitting, and this is something that our followers must know.
Sure.
At the moment, there is no MPs, there is
Sure.
no parliament in the Republic of South Africa. In order to form parliament to start its job, those lists of political parties that has been submitted to the IEC, from the IEC, they will move to the Justice Zondo's office.
Sure.
To go and have a ceremony of
to swear them in.
To swear them in,
Yes.
okay? Now, before these people, these 400 people, 159 from the ANC, 58 there, 81 there, 9 there, 10 there. Before they are ordinary citizens, they can't make any laws, they can't make any rules. After they are sworn in, their first duty, now they are now employed by us
Sure.
as MPs. Their first duty is amongst themselves, elect a speaker and a deputy speaker.
Sure.
Why those two first? Because somebody must preside over parliament.
Sure.
So a speaker of parliament is more like a chairperson. So somebody must preside, they must elect. And now that's where the 201 comes in.
Sure.
The voting to say the one who gets the majority will become the speaker and the deputy.
Sure.
Now the speaker will preside over parliament. The second job is to elect the president of the republic.
Yes, sir.
Now, at that time, we have what we call the legislative authority of the country. Okay? So the judicial authority has done their part, they've sworn them in. Now we have the legislative authority. But President Ramaphosa and his cabinet, they are still there. There's no vacuum. They are still there for 21 days. President Ramaphosa must dissolve the executive authority, the cabinet.
Okay.
So he must fire himself and fire the cabinet.
Okay.
Within 21 days. Okay? Starting from Sunday or Monday, if we may put it from Monday, the past Monday. Now, once the legislative authority is sitting, one of their primary duties is to elect the president amongst themselves, amongst the political parties. So political parties will nominate. Now, this is where the catch is. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa says, and I'm not talking the Electoral Act, it says, for parliament to be formed, you need minimum 350 sitting MPs. Now,
so in the absence of the MK, then you can't
exactly
constitute
the
the parliament.
catch. You understand? Remember, it doesn't say you need 350 people, men and women.
Sure.
It says you need 350 MPs.
Members of parliament.
What makes a person an MP? is to be sworn in by the judicial authority.
So until that happens,
You
can't constitute a parliament.
You can't constitute a parliament. You need 150.
Therefore, you can't select a.
Therefore, you
head of
can't
state.
select. You can't sit. You can't sit because you are not. In my understanding, is you.
So
are,
is this another master stroke from?
That's another master talk from the MK.
From
Yes,
JZ.
when they say they will boycott parliament, I think people don't understand what they're saying.
Sure.
They're simply saying we'll hold our members, not MPs,
Sure.
back because they are not yet MPs. They are members that the list is in there. Now, if they don't go, how will parliament be constituted when it doesn't meet the threshold that is being set by the constitution?
Absolutely.
Now, somebody said, we'll go ahead. We'll use the numbers that are there. You know what it's going to do? It's bring back the MK's that point to say they'll go to the Concord.
Exactly.
Because you are doing something unconstitutional. I think that will be dangerous. You know, if these people have to negotiate, I will negotiate tooth and nail to have everybody being sworn in and say, let's go and fight inside parliament. You understand? They must agree fresh. It's Saturday, by next week, Wednesday, Thursday, they must have agreed, these people. But some law experts, some constitutional experts are saying, no, it will proceed. You need 1/3 of MPs. But my argument, and look, I may lose my argument, but my argument is there are no MPs. I said yesterday to the Deputy Minister of, on Tuesday, the Deputy Minister of Justice, he went on Twitter and he said that, no, we'll use those who are there and the majority vote. I said, but Deputy Minister, we don't have MPs. What do you mean those are there?
Exactly.
There's no MPs. We don't have MPs. We must have minimum 350 MPs. And maximum 400 because our parliament has 400. So if we have our 355 MPs, let us sworn in, then MK can kick that. But let me tell you, what is also dangerous, it is not only MK that is going to hold them. What if the PAC done with their one member? And what if the EFF also does it? And other parties say, in solidarity with MK or with let's leave the MK out, forget the MK. What if all these political parties that have filed protests and objections?
But the EFF said they accept the results, though. So
yes,
surely...
they've accepted the defeat.
Yeah.
They've accepted the defeat because they lost, you understand? And they will just went forward, and Julius has come back to say he's prepared to work with Ramaphosa. He differs with him politically, but he's not going to be used to can fight these battles. But I want to see what the law is going to do and say here. I'm convinced, if our followers ask me, Botsang, what's your position? This is my position. The constitution of the country says you need 350 MPs to can convene parliament. Without Umkhonto weSizwe, 58 MPs. There won't be 350, there'll be 342, so parliament cannot convene. That's my interpretation. How will they convene when the constitution is explicit? You see, in law, people talk words like explicitly stated. The constitution was explicit. They didn't use percentages. They didn't say the percentage of the sworn MPs. They said you need 350 MPs. It is explicit.
Absolutely.
You understand? Then what are you going to say? They're going to say, oh, you don't want with your, 58 MPs. All other political parties, let us share these 58 MPs. They can't, because you know why? Those members are voted in by us. There must be votes.
Exactly. Then you're disenfranchising the people.
You are disenfranchising the people who voted MK or whatever party. So that's my understanding.
So we have a problem.
We have a problem as a nation. And again, the problem is sitting with one man, Jacob Zuma. Guys, you know, I made a joke and I said, we have a former president who is 83 years of old. He, in his 70s, he made old white people to come out of the comfort of their retirement houses to protest. He made almost everybody to read the Constitution the last 2 months. He made journalists and people like us who are analysts to become law students.
He's a constitutional teacher.
Yes, he's teaching.
That's what he is.
One man, he has made lawyers and judges to differ
And argue. Yeah.
and reinterpret the constitution of the country. You can say
Jersey
whatever
number
you
10.
like. No, not Jersey number 10. Jacob Zuma is the Lionel Messi of South African politics. Like it or not, I don't
Sure.
care what people say. This man has made me read the constitution like never before in my life.
Sure.
And I just felt like I can go and write a constitutional law paper. I will pass. And because of him dribbling us, but we need level-headed, sober-minded people. It's happening anywhere else in the world where there are coalitions, where parties lose, and we can do it. We can do it as a nation.
Find each other in the best interest of the country.
Of the nation,
is
yes.
What needs to happen.
Yes, I think we have people in this government, in these political parties who are level-headed, who can do that.
But also, it has to be a coalition with the balls to understand that a lot has to change. The status quo cannot be allowed to persist.
It will cause problems for us. You see the way people went out to vote and it has caused excitement.
Yeah.
If people do not see the benefits of them standing up in the cold weather and voting,
Sure.
they will be irritated, you understand?
Sure.
And losers may agitate them. Anger can spark easily.
Sure.
And I'm angry with the country due to unemployment, due to security, due to the delaying wheels of the laws and the courts, and the education and the employment of youth and the education status. I'm very upset as a South African.
Yeah.
And a political party that will handle those things for me, I'll be very happy. I don't care who.
Sure.
And how many more people think like me in the country? People want security, people want jobs, and except those who have money. Another thing that has misled us as a nation, people who are well off, they've cushioned the wrongs of the government by money. And I like your scenario, the example of saying you have to put ADT or whatever company for security in your area, you have to put electric fence, you have to get solar systems because there's no electricity. So those who can afford, they cushioned their life with the resources they have. But what about the majority who do not have?
Sure.
Understand? We call our kids nyaupists. We call the youth in the townships that they are drug addicts, they are robbers, they are nyaupists. We are failing to sit and say, how did this youth end there?
How did we get here?
How did we get here?
And what needs to change for us to shift the trajectory that we're on right now?
Exactly.
Because something has to change.
Fresh, we grew up under more difficult circumstances than our current youth. Very few of us went into drugs and being robbers. Very few, less than 1% of us.
Yeah.
So it shows that the social ills of our society, the mismanagement of the country, the ills of the government, they have failed to can take care of the socio-economic issues of the people. That's why we have drug addicts, nyaupists, and robbers. I mean, you look at people who are committing crime. It's hungry people. It's people who are idling and have nothing to do and have got access to drugs and guns and things like that. We failed to do that as a nation.
And there's a saying that if nothing changes, one day the poor will eat the rich.
Let me tell you why the rich are worried now.
Sure.
And why the rich doesn't want the representatives of the poor. The rich are worried because the poor are now standing there like hyenas and wild dogs and scavengers to can now eat the rich. And what they also perceive to be rich. You know, in South African society, me and you were perceived to be rich.
Yeah, when you get to a filling station, they call you Ngamla.
Yeah.
They don't know that you're struggling to pay that monthly installment.
Or even the petrol, the petrol card, which is a credit card that you put petrol in your car with. So they will come. They will come for those that are perceived and seen to be rich and well off. And one of them is an easy way. It's those who live in suburbs. One thing I've learned from Lindiwe Zulu, who's a minister at the moment, and she was my ambassador in Brazil. You know, that lady used to say, way back, years back, used to say, Botsang, one day, the people of Alexander, they don't have to march, they'll cross the street. It's a street, it's just one highway between Alexander and Sandton. They will go into those houses, they will jump those high walls in numbers, they will occupy those houses if we don't manage the country correct. If we don't do that, we have an opportunity now. We have removed the ANC from arrogance and power. We have pulled them down. They are humbled, and we should take that advantage to say to the ANC, we are not enemies.
Sure.
We're just humbling you. Let us talk for the best interest of the nation. When people said 2024, it's 1994, we have forced political parties to go back into a room and make new decisions for the best interest of the country. That's what we have done.
And on that note, I think we need to call it a day.
No,
Otherwise-
thanks, my
otherwise
brother.
we're going to talk forever. Where do we find you on social media?
botsangm@gmail.com, and people should go to my Facebook page at
Yes, sir.
Botsang Moiloa. That's where I will post that letter I wrote in 2013, the Wild Dog Approach. I will repost it. They're still there. And then 082-485-9100 on the telephone, which is also a WhatsApp telephone number. Thanks, Brother Fresh.
And that was PoliTricks this week with Botsang Modimowame Moiloa. We do this again next week. Coming to you from AMP Studios downtown Johannesburg. We are part of the Africa Podcast Network. Shout out to Pezulu Works for all of the cinematography. Shout out to my boy Otis the Floor Fraser. He does all of the imaging, and the show producers Kuvesh Mohan and Kiletso Mudisa King. Email us at waw@africapodcastnetwork.com. Till next week, have an incredibly wow week in spite of yourselves. We're out of here.